Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to another episode of Glass Half Full, a podcast and a safe platform where we talk with a variety of teachers, entrepreneurs, spiritualists, uplifters, givers, shakers, and serenaders. Everyone has a lesson to learn and a lesson to share. Let's use our life experiences to enrich someone's heart, mind, spirit, and soul. Through sharing our experiences, we can be a learning inspiration for one another. I'm your host, Chris Levens. Let's welcome today's guest. Today's guest is Miss Ilana Labourene. Ilana is an international actress, singer, and voice actor based in Orlando, Florida, U.S.A., after many years living in Asia. She is also a certified health coach who is the creator and host of Candida Kitchen, a cooking show for people with restricted diets due to illness or allergies. I love that. After many years of juggling a hectic work schedule and traveling around the world, she is happy to be grounded during the pandemic, able to nurture her creative ideas and practice regular self-care. Let's give a warm welcome to Ilana. Welcome.
Ooh, thank you, audience. Thank you. And thank you, Chris.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you today?
I am good and excited to start my day talking to you.
Thank you so much for being here. And please let everyone know where you are in the world today.
I am in Orlando, Florida.
Yes. The sunny state. The sunny state.
And it is sunny. It is sunny.
Well, we're very happy that you could be here with us this morning, taking some time out of your busy schedule to just sit and have a chat with us. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me as your guest. I'm so thrilled to do it.
Yay. Okay, we're going to jump right on in. I like to ask all my guests about their spiritual design. Our lives are in spiritual design, and I want you to share about your life layout, your blueprint with everyone, telling us how you grew up, where, your family life, siblings, anything like that.
Sure. I definitely did not have a conventional childhood because my parents were crazy wedding singers. My parents, who, by the way, looked like Elton John and Cher. If you held up pictures side by side, you'd be like, what?
Wow, now that's everything.
Shocking. Yeah. They were from Boston. My whole family's from Boston. They met up there. They were in a band together. My mom was a singer and played drums. My dad was a pianist and was a singer as well. And they were a little bit New England famous. They traveled all over New England, playing at the biggest hotels and lounges in the area. And then they relocated to Orlando in the 70s. And they founded a wedding company, which at the time, in the early days, was called Pizzazz. And
nice.
Yes, we had a minivan that had Pizzazz written on the side. I remember that. And so I grew up with music. It's in my DNA. It was every day for me. They had a wedding company at the house, so we would have brides and grooms over to the house every day, planning their weddings, talking about music, ordering their invitations, etc. And my parents would be running around to gigs all over Florida, sometimes even working on cruises. So it was a very interesting upbringing in that regard. My parents loved to have parties, and all their musician friends would come over, and it would just be a big music festival. It was just crazy. It was so much fun.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. And of course, the music ended up playing a big role in my sister and my life. My sister, she tried her hand at, doing plays and musical theater. That wasn't for her. She actually loved playing music. So she played piano and violin and
nice
French horn. She was always in the orchestra.
Wow.
And I really took to singing. I loved performing. I loved being in theater. And so that was a thread that has carried on throughout my entire life. But my parents were also really nurturing in giving us the opportunity to try so many different things
Mm-hmm.
where, we tried tennis for a couple months, we tried horseback riding for a few months, we tried this and we tried that for a year. And my parents were always like, if you don't like it, don't stick with it. Let's try something new. And that was really great, but also not great in some ways because
Why not?
as compared as compared to in Asia, for example, where you're introduced to one hobby, one sport, one musical instrument when you're a kid, and that becomes your thing for
Mm-hmm.
your entire life. And you master that
Mm-hmm.
thing, which I always admired. But in my circumstance, I felt like I was the jack of all trades, but the master of none. So there were some things I look back upon and I wish that I had spent more time doing
Mm-hmm.
and really, pushing through the fear and pushing through the distaste and just becoming good at it and owning that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say of all the things that I did, certainly singing is the thing that I've mastered. Even though I'm not a master of it still, it's still a
Mm-hmm.
lifelong practice, but
Nice.
that's the one thread that's carried on. But additionally, my parents also encouraged us to travel, travel, travel and
Nice.
experience the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I took my first international trip when I was 8 years old to Mexico,
Wow.
and it never ceased. We traveled to Europe. We traveled to Europe together on multiple occasions, multiple countries. We've been to the Middle East. We've traveled all over the US doing road trips, and we just had the best time.
Oh, that sounds
And
nice.
it was really amazing. And it was also really hard to relate to other people, my friends, my peers, because no one else was doing that. My sister and I were blessed with this opportunity to experience the world, and no one else I knew had done that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of hard to like come back and be like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe what happened in France and then in Italy. And it was like, I went to Daytona Beach this summer. Woo. It was like kind of hard to relate.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But but my sister and I gained this worldly view. We had a desire to study different languages, to learn how to cook different kinds of foods. And as we got older, we continued traveling on our own. And that led me to eventually living overseas, which was amazing. So that is kind of a long story about my life in a nutshell up until this point.
Oh, no, that's great. That's great. Can you tell us who around you keeps you motivated?
That is a tough question to answer because I am a very self-motivated individual.
Okay, speak on that
I
for us.
don't
Speak on that for us. What is self-motivation? What does
Yeah.
that look like?
Well, I could say that inspiration, that way of life and living
Mm-hmm.
comes from my parents, my dad specifically. Having and this is not something that I realized until recently after moving back in with my parents after being away for 15 years,
Mm-hmm.
that I get my self motivation from him.
Wow.
Hold on. Sorry, I just need to like clear my throat a little bit.
Yeah. No,
Um, so
no worries. Go ahead.
it's
Clear
the
it. Go
morning.
ahead.
I'm still like
It's
warming
all
up.
good, girl. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So my dad running his own business
Mm-hmm.
every day would wake up and the first thing he would do would practice the piano for about
Wow.
30 minutes. And then he would spend the rest of the day making phone calls. And of course, back then, there was no internet, right? So he would
Mm-hmm.
literally call businesses, call clients, and play them a demo over the phone.
Wow.
And then he would pitch his business,
Mm-hmm.
everything that his agency did, and play the music that he would play, and that would lead to leads of people coming in and booking appointments. And
Wow.
this was all day, every day. And, I memorized his little demo. I knew exactly like Fleur de Lis would come in here, and then the canon in G would come in here. So it was just an all day routine, and the way that they nurtured us, there was that word of like just don't we don't disappoint yourself, don't disappoint us,
Hmm.
always do your best,
Yes,
which
yes.
is almost that guilt is almost worse than like a hard punishment, you know what I mean?
It's true.
It was always like self-respect, and how do you feel about it, and doing your best and feeling good about that, and knowing that if you fail, you just have to try another way. It's not the end.
Hmm.
And I would watch him, fail. People would turn him down. He would lose jobs or lose clients,
Hmm.
but it never stopped him. He would, sit with that disappointment and then pick himself up and keep going. And that,
Wow.
just through osmosis, being in that environment is how I have lived my life.
Hmm. Wow. Sometimes we, without realizing, we have picked up many things that our parents, we've got many things from our family. And when we're younger, we're like, I don't want to be like my mom or dad. Like, I don't want to be. But as we get older, you realize that you are more like them than not. And lots of traits are coming from some parent, and good or bad, that we can see that some of these traits are handed down. Like you say, the music, it's in the DNA. Like some of these traits too, things are just passed down. That's awesome. That's awesome. Do
Mhm.
you,
Mhm.
so this drive that you feel that you, for you being your self motivator, um, do you ever feel that because you motivate yourself, you give motivation to other people because this is something that is normal for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this isn't something that I knew that I was doing until, again, later in life, because I just kept going. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
in my head doing my best, doing what I feel I need to do for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until maybe probably when I left America and I was living in Asia and just figuring out my life and having all these accomplishments. I started setting goals. I'd never really set goals before. I was just
Mm-hmm.
kind of cruising. But once I was out on my own in a foreign country, I was able to kind of exercise these new, like I had different boundaries and different parameters that I had to kind of use logic and reason to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
And I started accomplishing things, like really crazy things. And my friends back home were started messaging me like, I cannot believe what you're doing. How how did you just pick up your life? You plopped yourself in a foreign country, and now you're speaking the language, and you're working in bars, and you're singing, and you're acting, and you're doing all these things. Like, what? I am so inspired by you. And
Oh,
to
that's
me,
great.
I'm just like, this is normal. I don't know. Like,
I'm just making it work. Like,
exactly. It just seemed like a totally normal thing to do. That if there's something that you want, you just pick up and go for it and
hmm,
figure it out. But I've learned that from so many of my friends that they don't have that drive, and they have
mm-hmm.
a lot of fear that holds them back,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't relate to that. So that those messages from my friends over the years that continue to come in inspired me to do more,
Yes.
and then not hold back. I remember being really bashful for many years about my success.
Hmm.
I didn't want people to think that I was bragging, that I felt in some way that I was better than them because I was doing X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
But when I learned that I was inspiring people, I started doing a lot more on social media
Mm-hmm.
and showing what I'm doing, and then started creating this kind of message like, you can do this. It's
Yes.
not that hard.
Mm-hmm.
And showing my process. And so that was really, it was like a mutual feeling of inspiration. Like, I'm inspiring you, and therefore you're inspiring me to do more.
Yes. And that's what it's all about, is this we're giving, getting, we're sharing. It's this rotation of energy and things being passed forth. We get it, we pass it on. Everybody is worthy to be able to have it and to receive it, as well as to give it back out. So that's what it's all about. And ideally, to hear you say that, is everything. And these are the qualities of leaders, that we see all over. You have to
Hmm.
be willing to feel that you can give, even when you don't realize that you always have to do your best because people are watching, you know. So I
Hmm.
love that. I love that. I want to change gears quickly to talk a little bit about your show. And I want to talk about how did you come about to make up a show, Candida Kitchen? I love
Hmm.
what it is that how you founded it, and restricting about people who have allergies and illnesses due to diet restrictions. Like, this is huge. It's huge. Can we talk a little bit about that? Okay, everyone.
Hey,
Okay, you're back?
are you there?
Yes, we are here. We are here.
Okay.
We lost you for a
Okay.
moment, but it's all good.
There.
You're back. This is what
Yes.
happens. Hey, it's free. International people. International. Um, were you able to hear my question?
Yes, yes. I was
Okay.
just about to dive into that. So,
Okay.
this show, Candida Kitchen, comes from a place of, it comes from a journey, it comes from a place of pain and suffering
Mm,
and conquering that.
okay.
So, you know that when I was living in Japan, and you don't know the full extent, but I was sick. I was
Mm-hmm.
sick and I was dealing with a lot of health issues while I was living there. But it wasn't just in Japan. I mean, I've lived a life of illness, unfortunately, and it was just kind of a mystery. I was never really able to get a diagnosis, and I just kind of learned to live with it. I learned to live with sickness, and it just seemed like, okay, well, this is just my life.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I moved to Japan, I got significantly worse. I almost died from whatever it was that was plaguing me. And it was my stomach, it was my respiratory.
Mm,
It was just so much. I was just sick constantly. And I thought that I was going to have to leave Japan. But I moved to Japan for a reason and I had goals and I wasn't going to leave. So I needed to figure it out.
mm-hmm.
And long story short, I discovered that I had Candida and I had H. pylori, which are two very serious. One is essentially a fungus. Candida is a yeast that we
Okay.
all have,
Okay.
but it can become out of control when you have something called gut dysbiosis, and that is when your gut bacteria is out of balance. Our gut bacteria is made of millions of uh, bacteria, yeast,
Mm-hmm.
and viruses. And it's a balance. We have the good and we have the bad.
Okay.
But if something happens, like you're taking too many antibiotics, for example, that will actually kill off your good bacteria and give the bad bacteria an opportunity to grow.
Mm,
And if it's not put back in check, it can actually take over your immune system, which in my case is what happened to me with
wow.
Candida, which I'm pretty sure I'd had my entire life, which is why I had this mystery sickness that no one could really identify.
Mm-hmm.
It was just kind of a slow growing imbalance. But also, while I was traveling around Asia, because I already had a weakened immune system, allowed me to become more susceptible to other things. And so I believe while I was traveling in Vietnam, I picked up H. pylori, which is the number one bacteria for stomach cancer and stomach ulcers.
Wow.
But it can also it just completely destroys your gut lining and therefore destroys your immune system. And it's an incredibly debilitating bacteria. So this is why I was nearly dead.
Wow.
I was living
Wow.
in Japan. And the way to treat these illnesses is you have to heal your stomach. You have to heal your gut because 80% of your immune system is in your stomach. your gut.
Wow.
And you have to do that first through diet. You have to eliminate all gut irritating foods. You have to remove anything that's going to disrupt sugar, your sugar levels, your
Mhm.
insulin. When you have a spike in your sugar, first of all, yeast, Candida, feeds off of sugar.
Mhm.
So it can cause all kinds of flare ups in your body, inflammation in your body, having too much sugar. So this isn't just like candy that I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Things, starchy foods like potatoes,
Oh, wow.
rice, wheat, all of these things have an effect on your blood sugar.
Mhm.
And as I was, trying to learn how to heal myself, I discovered that living in Japan, there was no food that was safe for me to eat.
Oh, stop it. Really?
Yeah, hardly. And I had to really, I had to spend basically at least 3 months where I
Mhm.
didn't go out to eat a single thing. I cooked every single food that I had to eat because
Wow.
I couldn't read labels. I had to use my Google Translate to translate every single label when I went to a grocery store or if I had to buy prepackaged food
Mhm.
in an emergency situation. Being on the road, as you know, I was like traveling for work throughout Japan and having to, figure out how to eat while I was on the road. It was the most stressful, few years of my life
Oh.
because I just didn't know how to eat. And then I started investigating, okay, the things that I want to eat, how can I make them myself
Mhm.
in a way that's healthy? Having cut all sugar out of my diet, I was dying. I needed chocolate. I needed to enjoy,
Right.
food is enjoyment.
It's
And if
true.
you're cutting out all the foods that taste good, like, what is the point of that? It's a very, very sad existence.
It's so true.
So I started to learn how to make my own chocolate.
Oh, wow.
I learned that you can make your own chocolate by just buying plain cocoa mass and
Mhm.
then adding your own healthy sweetener like stevia. Like I could have stevia because it doesn't affect your body in any negative way.
Mhm.
And then putting it in the refrigerator. And like there I had my own chocolate. I was like, "Oh my god, this is so easy."
Oh, wow.
And so from there, I started learning how to make, chocolate avocado mousse.
Mm.
And that was really healthy and exactly all the foods that I wanted to eat. It had all the healthy fats and it had the chocolate and it was sweet. And then I was like, okay, how can I take this further? Can
Mhm.
I make my own yogurt? Can I make my own cheese? Because I couldn't really eat dairy unless it was like really low in lactose. So I started learning how to make cottage cheese and things like that. So before I knew it, after 2 years of suffering on an incredibly strict diet, my kitchen started to flourish and I started to learn how to make Asian sauces that were healthy for me. So then I could start eating Asian foods again
Wow.
and, gluten-free versions and sugar-free versions. And it was really amazing. So that was how this all started.
Mm.
And when I finally moved back to America, when I moved back to my parents, it was just supposed to be a visit, right? But then the pandemic hit. So I was like, well, I guess I'm stuck here,
Uh-oh, yeah,
mom and dad.
Rona. Here we go.
Right. So there was no way for me to really focus on my acting career because everything was on hold.
Mhm.
But I thought, gosh, health and fitness has always been a huge passion of mine. I think I'm going to take this time to build on that and I'm going to get my certification in health. And as I was halfway through my program and I thought, gosh, first of all, are you familiar with the morning pages?
No,
Um,
I'm not. The
by
morning
I think
pages.
the morning pages. I can't remember. I'm gonna have to get back to you on her name.
Mhm.
She's a famous director. She's directed all kinds of Broadway shows,
Mhm.
but she's the most famous for her book called the Morning Pages and the Art of not the Art of War. I can't remember. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. But
Okay.
there's this exercise where every morning you journal and everything in your mind you just put on paper, and I think it's like 3 pages front and back. and you don't have to go in there with any preconceived notion or focus. You just it's like a brain dump,
Is
but
it
you have to
Julia
do
Cameron?
3
Cameron?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay,
Julia
okay.
Cameron.
Yes, Julia. The Artist's Way Morning
And so
Pages Journal.
the
Yes.
artist's way, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd heard about this in the past, but it actually came up in my program.
Oh,
She did a
wow.
lecture in my program and she was talking about the artist's way in the morning pages. And I thought, wow, like this is so amazing how integrative this program is, because it's not just talking about nutrition, it's talking about all ways of being creative and being open-minded and centering yourself and finding your own way. And so she was part of that lesson.
Is this
And
part of
so I
your
was like, I'm
certification?
going to do it.
I'm sorry. Is
It
this
was
part
part
of
of my
your?
certification.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah. So halfway through my program, I started the morning pages. And through that, I had this brilliant idea of like, okay, I'm an actress. I have a lot of connections in the film industry and I love nutrition.
Hmm.
Here's a crazy idea. What if I made a cooking show? And so I, I called up my neighbor, who was my friend from high school, who still lived a block away from me
Wow.
and works in film. And I was like, hey, Dan, I've got this crazy idea of making a cooking show. It's going to be called Candida Kitchen, which was a name that had crossed my mind years before. I ran it by my sister and she's like, ooh, that's catchy. And I never forgot it. And he's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let me call up a few people. I think I have a kitchen that we can use. Let's set it up.
Wow.
And literally within 3 days, it was meant to be, clearly meant to be. And within 3 days, we had the whole thing set up. And so a couple weeks later, I had all my branding colors and my menu, and
Yes.
I had rehearsed my script, and we recorded 3 episodes.
Wow.
And that is how it was born. It's a
Wow.
long story.
Wow. No, but it's great though. Like, and it's here. It's something that's still happening now. And, I always feel that when we go through some life change or something that changes our lives, some dramatic change, when we come out, we're not the same. And,
Yes.
after what you've gone through and how you've come out, and now that you've able to turn this around, because there's other people out there with, Candida, that's has
Hmm.
issues. And, because of this, people are able to be educated. I had never even heard of the name before, but now to have some
Hmm.
idea about it and to know about the wellness of it is everything. Wow.
Hmm.
Mm-mm.
And it and I found and the reason that I really gravitated to doing this is because I felt the need to fill this gap. There's a huge gap in this world of health
Mm-hmm.
and cooking shows.
Speak on
There's
it.
all these
Speak
like
on it.
paleo diets,
Mm-hmm.
keto diets, but they're all catered towards people who just want to lose weight. It's not catered to people who legitimately cannot eat these ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll find that, a lot of these paleo diets, they'll use things like date sugar or bananas as their, sweetener of choice. But guess what? People who have gut dysbiosis or diabetes or candida can't eat bananas. So
Wow.
it leaves this huge gaping hole for people who want to eat well and take care of themselves and heal their body, but no there's nowhere for them to go.
Mm.
They're constantly having to either hate their lives by eating terribly bland food
It's
or
true.
having to make it up themselves. And so I felt like, okay, here is a way for me to use my ability to be on this platform as a performer. People know me. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm not, famous, but people know me and they listen to me. And I wanted to use that as a way of engaging and spreading this awareness and educating people who might not even realize that they are sick.
Yes.
And
It's awesome.
candida is prevalent and people don't realize it because our society, American diet is so full of
It's
sugar,
so true.
and doctors push antibiotics all the time. So you might not even realize that you have this dysbiosis going on. And
Mm.
it might be really subtle. Like, for me, it was very, very much like life and death every time I would eat something that had sugar in it. But for other people, it might just be like their nose gets stuffy, or they get really tired after
Mm.
eating,
Mhm.
or they just can't lose the weight. Like, really subtle things, there's an imbalance in your body. So it was just so important for me to be able to speak to these people.
No, I love it. You've reached an audience that has been in need with not enough platform and help to be heard. So this is a great ordeal. In closing, I wanted to ask a few more questions. Well, maybe two more questions. First, I wanted to ask, do you have any final thoughts for any of our listeners or anyone who's listening today on the professional level or personal level?
I would absolutely encourage anyone and everyone to find a spiritual practice. And this is not a religious thing.
Okay.
It can be journaling every day,
Hmm.
writing your, things that you're grateful for,
Yes.
or just a journal about, how was your day and where could you improve? What did you learn? It could also be meditation, which is so important. I mean, I've learned that I cannot go on without meditating. It keeps me so grounded.
Mm.
Uh, People who struggle with anxiety and overwhelm, learning how to meditate, it's all those thoughts that are floating like crazy in the air, brings
Hmm.
them down to connect to your body and helps you focus and redirect and understand like these feelings. It's so important to be self-aware
Mm.
and in tune with your body. We're just not in this chaotic
It's true.
world in America anyway. We work, work, work. It's like encouraged to work yourselves to death,
It's
and
true.
life does not have to be that way.
Mm.
Stress is one of the number one killers. Most of the
You're right.
illnesses that people suffer, heart problems, weight problems, stomach problems, anxiety issues, are connected to stress. And if you don't manage your stress, it will kill you in some way. So,
Mm.
finding your way of finding self care, grounding, spirituality,
Hmm.
to be connected and breathe, it will change your life.
Yes. That's it. Now, take that down, people. That's food for thought right there. You know, my grandmother used to say that if you don't learn something new within 24 hours, you've wasted a whole day. And it's true. And when I learn something new in the moment, I'm like, okay, thank God I didn't waste the whole day. But we should be striving to be better.
Mhm.
We should be striving to be more and finding ways to just better ourselves. So I love what you're doing. And I love that you're out there helping people and giving another option for people who don't have a voice to speak on these issues about having a healthy gut and a healthy lifestyle and diet. So bravo to you. Bravo.
Mhm.
Bravo.
Thank you. Thank you.
One more question for you. Do you
Mhm.
feel is your glass half empty or half full?
Oh my god, it's half full. It used to be half empty. I feel like I spent the majority of my life on a half empty glass, which was very sad.
Hmm.
But in the last 5 years, that has flipped, and I am loving life.
We love that. We love that. Can you tell everybody how they can reach you if they're interested to check out the Candida Kitchen and just maybe shoot some questions your way? How can we find you?
Yes, absolutely. So you can go directly to the URL candidakitchen.com,
Good. And can you
and
spell
there
that
you
for
will
people?
find,
Just
yes, Candida is Candida
good.
kitchen.com.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you'll find all the videos there. You'll also be able to peruse my whole website, learning more about me, and you can send me an email through the website, or you can email me directly at Ilana, Ilana, at ilanahealth.com. And of course, I'm on Instagram as well, Ilana Integrative Health, and Facebook. Yeah, there's lots of ways to find me. So start with the website.
Yes, go and check out the Candida Kitchen. That is probably the first. They
Hmm.
can find everything from there for sure.
Hmm.
Well, we thank you so much for getting
Yeah.
up this morning and being a guest on Glass Half Full. We really appreciate you being here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
You take care. Okay,
You
thank
too.
you.
Thank you, Chris. Mwah.
Mwah, mwah. Kisses back to you, my love. And thank you for all the listeners for listening in to Glass Half Full, a safe platform for everyone to share their life experiences. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Levens. Please subscribe, follow, and rate this podcast for more learning experiences. Until next time, be blessed.